So I want to dive into the awards, but before we do the first award, I need to take a moment to remember the people we've lost since the last Rage for Justice Awards. It's been 2 years since we've had one of these, and what a 2 years it's been. I'd like to first talk about Bill Rosendahl. Bill Rosendahl, our awardee, first awardee in 2002, died, and he has been the city council's conscience, and he has forever changed the face of politics in LA and made it more progressive. I'd also like to salute Stanley Scheinbaum, who died recently. He was our 2003 Philip Burton Public Service Award winner, and Stanley opened his heart and his house to every cause imaginable. And I'd also like to acknowledge my friend and publisher and our board member at Consumer Watchdog who passed, Jeremy Tarcher. Jeremy was a maverick publisher, the father of New Age literature, and he opened all our minds and taught us how to think more broadly and expansively. And what that translated into strategy was just priceless. But no death really has shaken us more at Consumer Watchdog than the death of our longtime board member and great ally, Kathy Olsen. Kathy died suddenly in December of 2015 at 59, and she was a great friend. She was one of the nicest people you will have ever met, caring, genuine. She knitted blankets for people. At Christmas, she gave cards she made by hand in her workshop with fabrics and pictures and designs. She'd give you dozens so you didn't have to buy greeting cards during the year. And you could give out Kathy's cards. Kathy was just really, really nice, but she was a fierce patient advocate. And that Kathy was so nice makes what happened to her family so difficult. It reminds us that bad things happen to great people and that the law should be there to protect them. But it isn't always. Let me tell you what happened to Kathy's family. When her son was 2, he had a major head injury and went to the emergency room, and this was the 90s, this was the age of HMO medicine. She asked for a CAT scan because she knew something was wrong. The HMO doctor kept saying no. And when he finally came back, unfortunately he was comatose. Today he's 27, he's got cerebral palsy, he's blind, and he needs someone to take care of him. Can't live alone. And at trial, in the medical malpractice case, the jury determined that the experts were right. Had Stephen Olsen gotten this $800 CAT scan, he'd be perfectly healthy today, 25 years later. They awarded $7 million for his lifetime of pain and suffering, for living in the darkness. And when the jury left the room, a judge lowered that $7 million verdict to $250,000, all based on a one-size-fits-all cap put in by the legislature 20 years before. And by the way, it still exists 20 years later. Kathy, I met her right after that all happened, and she dedicated her life. She joined Consumer Watchdog, and she dedicated her life to changing the medical injustice and the legal injustice that happened to her family. The jury foreman only read about the change in the verdict in the newspaper and wrote a letter to the editor, how in America can a jury make a decision and it be taken away by the medical insurance lobby in Sacramento? Because Kathy was so nice and kind, she was the perfect messenger. She was also relentless. Kathy, Stephen, her husband Scott, traveled to Washington, D.C., and they prevented national caps from being put on America. And they did it very specifically when Bill Frist was the majority leader. And Kathy talked to Senator Feinstein. Senator Feinstein, after hearing her story, said, there's no way we should have a 250,000 cap. It's got to be millions if we're going to have any. And that frustrated Frist's efforts. She also traveled with her husband to state house to state house to state house and stopped state caps from being put in. And here in California, she rode the bus with the Nurses Association in the 90s, with Consumer Watchdog for patients' rights. And as a result, we have the toughest HMO reform laws in America right here in California, thanks to Kathy. We at Consumer Watchdog won't give up until Kathy's vision's done, because we haven't lifted the cap. But I can tell you, every major editorial board in California, except the Orange County Register, has editorialized for lifting the cap. And that includes the Union Tribune, because the Olsens are from Chula Vista, San Diego. They said a case can be made that this cap is on the low side, and this is a right-wing newspaper that would never endorse any such thing but for this local case. So I will tell you this. Today, Stephen at 27 is a very happy person. He's disabled, but I have never seen very many 27-year-olds as happy, and it's because of Kathy's love and the Olsens' love. But with Kathy gone, her husband Scott had to quit his job. And it's not easy, I'll tell you. That verdict would have come in handy right now. Juries should be able to award what they want, and wrongdoers should pay for their crimes. Innocent families shouldn't do that. That's the proposition Kathy stood for, and I'd like to show you a short video about her life and why she'll always be such an indelible part of this community.